The space station looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness. Its silver walls curved and twisted around a central core, with docking bays spread out like petals. Ships from dozens of different worlds sat connected to these bays, each one stranger than the last. Some looked like giant insects made of metal. Others were perfect spheres covered in spikes. A few glowed with their own inner light. John Carter stood at the window of the human transport ship and watched the station grow larger as they approached. He wore a simple black suit with a white shirt and dark blue tie. His hair was gray at the edges, and he had the kind of calm face that made people trust him. In his left hand, he carried a black briefcase. To anyone watching, he looked like a businessman going to an important meeting. Behind him, Lisa Mitchell checked her tablet one more time. She was younger than John, with brown hair pulled back in a neat style. Her gray suit was perfectly pressed and she wore small earrings that caught the light. She looked like she could be a lawyer, or maybe a professor. The tablet in her hands showed details about the aliens they were about to meet. Ryan Brooks sat in the corner, reading what looked like a history book. He was tall and thin, with sandy hair and glasses that made him look smart. His brown suit was comfortable rather than fancy, and he had ink stains on his fingers from taking notes. Anyone would think he was a scholar or maybe a translator. Sam Turner was the youngest of the four humans. He had short black hair and wore a suit that was a little too big for him. He kept looking around with wide eyes, like he had never seen anything so amazing. His briefcase was covered with stickers from different universities. He looked like a student who had won a contest to come on this trip. None of the aliens watching the human ship dock would have guessed the truth about these four people. The docking process took 20 minutes. When it was done, John Carter led his team through the airlock and into the station proper. The hallway beyond was enormous, with a ceiling so high they could barely see it. The walls were covered in symbols from hundreds of different languages. The air tasted slightly metallic and smelled like ozone. Other beings walked through the hallway, and each one was more unusual than the last. There were creatures that looked like walking trees with faces in their bark. Others had too many arms or legs or eyes. Some floated instead of walking. A few were so strange that the humans could not even tell which end was the head. Two of these beings approached the human delegation. The first was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and it wore robes covered in silver thread. This was Crix Vel, the representative from the Zephyrian Empire. The second creature was much different. It stood nearly 8 feet tall and was covered in thick gray hide. Its arms were as thick as tree trunks, and its hands ended in claws. Tusks stuck out from its lower jaw. This was Gorth, speaking for the Bruthan Confederacy. So these are the humans, Crix Vel said in perfect English. His voice sounded like wind chimes. How interesting. Gorth made a sound that might have been laughter. They look soft, like prey animals. John Carter stepped forward and offered his hand to Crix Vel. Ambassador Carter, representing Earth and her colonies. Thank you for welcoming us to the Galactic Council. Crix Vel looked at the offered hand for a moment before taking it with one of his 4 hands. His skin felt like cool metal. You are welcome here, human. Though I confess we expected your warriors to accompany you. These are our representatives, John said with a smile. We believe in diplomacy first. Gorth snorted, a sound like a steam engine. Diplomacy is for the weak. The strong take what they want. Lisa Mitchell stepped up beside John. She smiled politely at the large alien. We find that strength takes many forms. Sometimes the strongest choice is to talk instead of fight. Pretty words, Gorth said. But words do not stop plasma cannons. The group began walking through the station toward the main council chamber. Along the way, other alien delegates joined them or watched from side passages. The humans could feel dozens of eyes studying them, judging them, measuring them. Crix Vel walked beside John Carter, his 4 arms moving in complex patterns as he talked. Your species is new to the galaxy. Most new species must prove themselves before they earn a place in the council. Some do this through shows of military might, others through technological advancement, A few through economic power. How do humans plan to prove their worth? John considered the question carefully. We hope to prove that we can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity. Peace? Gorth laughed again. The galaxy is not peaceful, human. It is ruled by the strong. The weak serve or they die. Ryan Brooks spoke up for the first time. His voice was quiet and thoughtful. In our history, we have found that the strongest civilizations are often those that learn to cooperate rather than dominate. Your history is short and limited to one small world, Crixvel said. The galaxy has different rules. They reached the main council chamber, and the humans stopped to stare. The room was vast with seating for thousands of beings. Most of the seats were filled. The delegates came in every shape and size imaginable. Some were humanoid. Others were so alien that the humans could not even guess how they moved or communicated. At the center of the room was a raised platform where the speakers would stand. Above it, holographic displays showed star maps and data streams. The technology was so advanced that it seemed like magic to human eyes. Impressive, Sam Turner whispered, speaking for the first time since they had docked. This is where your species will learn its place in the galaxy, Gorth said. The council will decide if humans are worth protecting, or if your worlds are free for the taking. John Carter looked around the enormous room and felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The fate of billions of humans depended on what happened in the next few days. But he showed no sign of worry. His face remained calm and confident. We look forward to the discussions, he said simply. What none of the watching aliens knew was that John Carter had killed 43 enemy soldiers in his career as a Navy SEAL. Lisa Mitchell could speak 17 languages and had survived 3 years behind enemy lines. Ryan Brooks had been trained to gather intelligence in hostile territory, and his enhanced hearing was already picking up conversations from across the vast room. Sam Turner looked like a nervous student, but he was actually calculating the structural weak points of the station and inventorying everything around him that could be turned into a weapon. The most dangerous warriors in human space had arrived at the Galactic Council, and they were dressed like diplomats. The council session began 2 hours after the humans arrived. John Carter and his team sat in chairs that had been specially made to fit human bodies. Around them, thousands of alien beings filled the chamber with sounds that ranged from musical, chirping to deep rumbling growls. A creature that looked like a giant mantis with silver skin called the session to order. Its voice echoed through the chamber without any visible speaking device. The Galactic Council recognizes the human delegation from the planet Earth. You have requested membership in our organization. State your case. John Carter stood up slowly. He walked to the center platform with the same calm confidence he had shown since arriving. His black suit looked very plain compared to the colorful robes and armor worn by other delegates. Honored members of the council, he began, humanity comes before you seeking not just membership, but partnership. We offer our skills, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace among the stars. A low rumble came from the Bruthen section. Gorth stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across several smaller delegates. The humans speak of peace, but what can they offer? They have no great fleets. Their technology is primitive, their worlds are few and weak. Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber. Several delegates nodded their various heads or made sounds that seemed to indicate approval of Gorth's words. Another alien stood up. This one was tall and thin with skin that changed colors like oil on water. I am Thex 9 of the Corvin Republic. We have studied human space. Your species controls only 12 star systems. Your largest fleet has fewer than 200 ships. Why should we treat you as equals? John Carter listened to these words without changing expression. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. Numbers do not always tell the full story. Quality matters more than quantity. Thex 9's skin shifted to a dark red color. You speak of quality, but we see no evidence of it. Your species has been in space for less than 200 years. Others here have been among the stars for thousands of years. Experience is valuable, Lisa Mitchell said, standing up beside John. But so is fresh perspective. Sometimes new ideas, Solve old problems. Crixville made a sound like wind through metal tubes. The human speaks of solving problems. But what problems can they solve that we cannot? We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 500 years. Ryan Brooks adjusted his glasses and spoke in his quiet voice. With respect, Ambassador Crixville, our research suggests that this peace comes at a high cost. Many smaller species live in fear. Pirates raid trade routes regularly. Several regions are controlled by warlords who ignore council authority. The chamber grew quieter. Some delegates looked uncomfortable with Ryan's words. Gorth slammed his fist on his chair, making a sound like thunder. The human questions our peace. This is why new species must learn their place. You understand nothing of how the galaxy works. We understand that strength can take many forms, Sam Turner said, speaking up for the first time in the session. His young voice carried clearly through the chamber. Sometimes the strongest action is choosing not to fight. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A creature covered in spikes called out. Easy words from a species that has never faced real danger. Thex9's skin turned almost black. Perhaps it is time the humans learned what real danger looks like. I propose that humanity accept tributary status under Corvin protection. You will pay taxes to us, and we will keep your world safe. The Rai chamber erupted in various sounds of approval from many delegates. John Carter noticed that the approval came mostly from the larger, more aggressive species. The smaller delegates remained quiet. Tributary status is not what we came here to discuss, John said calmly. It is what you will accept, Gorth rumbled, or you will find that the galaxy is not safe for weak species who refuse protection. Lisa Mitchell stepped forward. Her gray suit looked almost formal now, like a uniform. Are you threatening us? Ambassador Gorth? I am explaining reality, the massive alien replied. The strong protect the weak pay for protection. This is how things work. John Carter looked around the chamber again. He could see that many delegates were watching this exchange carefully. Some looked eager to see how the humans would respond. Others looked worried. We request a recess to discuss this proposal with our team, John said. More sounds that might have been laughter came from various parts of the chamber. Thex9's skin shifted to a bright orange color. The humans need time to think about simple facts, how weak they are. You have 2 hours, the mantis-like chairman announced. When you return, we will hear your answer. The 4 humans walked out of the chamber together. They moved calmly, but several aliens noticed that they stayed close together and seemed very aware of everything around them. They found a small meeting room near the chamber. It was empty except for a table and chairs. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb sound. As soon as the door closed, the humans' behavior changed completely. Lisa Mitchell moved to the door and did something to the lock mechanism. Ryan Brooks pulled a small device from his pocket and swept it around the room, checking for listening devices. Sam Turner examined the walls and ceiling with the eye of someone who understood building construction. John Carter sat down at the table and opened his briefcase. Inside were papers that looked like diplomatic documents, but underneath was something else entirely. Assessment, he said quietly. 17 exit routes from the chamber, Lisa reported. Security is light but well armed. Energy weapons, mostly plasma-based, guard rotation every 4 hours. The Corvin delegate is lying about fleet positions, Ryan added. I heard him talking to his aide in their language. They have ships moving toward human space already. Station structure is solid but has 3 critical weak points, Sam said. Life support can be accessed through maintenance shafts. Power grid has manual overrides. John Carter nodded. So they were planning this from the beginning. The offer of tributary status is just cover for what amounts to conquest. The question is whether we can stop it through diplomacy, Lisa said. Not traditional diplomacy, Ryan replied. This culture respects strength above everything else. They see our peaceful approach as weakness. Then maybe it's time to show them a different kind of strength, John said quietly. The 4 humans looked at each other. In that moment, They were no longer diplomats in business suits. They were something much more dangerous. "We have one advantage," Sam observed. "They have no idea who we really are." John Carter smiled for the first time since entering the station. It was not a diplomatic smile. Let's keep it that way for now. The next morning began like any other day on the station. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors going about their business. Most paid no attention to the four humans who walked among them, dressed in their simple dark suits and carrying their briefcases. John Carter stopped at a small cafe that served drinks from dozens of different worlds. He ordered something that tasted like coffee but had a blue color. At a nearby table sat a delegate from the Mixtec Empire, a small species that looked like bipedal lizards with feathered crests. "Ambassador Veltok," John said politely, approaching the table. "May I join you?" The lizard-like being looked nervous but nodded. "Of course, human Carter. Though I am surprised you wish to speak with someone from such a small empire." John sat down with his blue coffee. "Size is not everything. Your people control important trade routes near the Galactic Rim." "Yes, but we are not powerful like the Bruthans or wealthy like the Corvins." Veltok's crest feathers flattened against his head. "We survive by staying quiet and causing no trouble." "That must be difficult," John said sympathetically, "always watching, always careful." Veltok nodded eagerly. "You understand. Your people are new, but you see how things really work. The big powers talk about peace and order, but they take what they want from smaller species." John leaned forward. "Slightly. What kind of things do they take? Tribute, protection money, mining rights. Sometimes they just take our ships and claim they were pirates." Veltok looked around nervously. "I should not speak of such things." "Your secrets are safe," John assured him. "We humans value friendship over politics. That is why you will not last long," Veltok said sadly. "The Bruthans are already moving ships toward your space. Admiral Zektar boasted about it yesterday. He says humanity needs to learn respect." John's expression did not change, but his grip on his cup tightened slightly. "Admiral Zektar? The Bruthan fleet commander. Very dangerous. He has destroyed 3 colonies in the past year to make examples. Always picks on the weak ones." Across the station, Lisa Mitchell attended what was called a cultural exchange event. Dozens of aliens displayed art, music, and food from their homeworlds. Lisa walked from booth to booth, smiling and asking questions like a curious tourist. At the Zephyrian display, she admired sculptures made from crystallized sound waves. "These are beautiful," she told the artist. "The patterns are so complex." "Thank you, human Lisa. We Zephyrians pride ourselves on patience and precision. Each sculpture takes months to create." "I can imagine. You must have excellent security to protect such valuable art during transport." The artist's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Oh yes, we have the best security systems, quantum locks, biometric scanners, temporal shields. Nothing can get past Zephyrian security." Lisa nodded appreciatively. "Fascinating technology. I would love to learn more about how it works." As they talked, Lisa's trained eyes were mapping the layout of the cultural hall. She noticed camera positions, guard posts, and emergency exits. Her enhanced memory recorded every detail of the security systems the artist described. Meanwhile, Ryan Brooks found himself at a gathering of junior diplomats and translators. These were the staff members who did much of the real work while their bosses made speeches. Ryan fit in perfectly with his glasses and quiet manner. "The humans seem nice enough," said a young Corvin with pale green skin. "Much more polite than most new species." "Politeness will not help them," replied a Bruthan, who was much smaller than Gorth but still twice the size of a human. "My people respect only strength. These humans show no strength." Ryan cleaned his glasses thoughtfully. "What would your people consider a proper show of strength?" "Combat, of course. Prove you can fight and Bruthans will respect you. Show weakness, and we will crush you." A spider-like creature with too many eyes spoke up. "The Corvins are worse. They smile and talk about friendship, then steal everything you own while you sleep." "That is not true," the young Corvin protested. We simply believe in efficient resource allocation. Ryan listened carefully to every word. His enhanced hearing picked up conversations from across the room. He learned about trade disputes, territory conflicts, and old grudges. Most importantly, he heard two Corvin officials discussing fleet movements and timing. In another part of the station, Sam Turner had volunteered to help with technical maintenance. He wore coveralls over his suit and carried a toolbox that looked like it came from any hardware store on Earth. The environmental systems need constant adjustment, explained Grixbo, a maintenance supervisor with metal-plated skin. So many different species, so many different atmospheric needs. Sam nodded eagerly. This is amazing technology. How do you manage power distribution for all these different systems? Very carefully. The station draws power from 3 fusion reactors. If any 2 fail, we have problems. If all 3 fail, Grixbo made a sound like grinding gears. As they worked, Sam memorized the layout of every power conduit, every backup system, every emergency protocol. He noted which areas would lose power first in a crisis, which systems had manual overrides, and where the most vulnerable connection points were located. That evening, the 4 humans met in John's quarters. The room was small but comfortable, with a window that looked out at the stars. They had checked for surveillance devices and found 3, which they disabled using techniques that would have impressed even the station's security chief. Report, John said quietly. The Bruthen fleet is already moving, Lisa said. 12 heavy cruisers under Admiral Zektar. They will reach New Denver Colony in 4 days. The Corvins are coordinating with them, Ryan added. This is not just about tribute. They plan to divide human space between them after we submit. Station defenses are strong against external attack but weak internally, Sam reported. If someone with access could reach the power systems, they could shut down everything in under 10 minutes. John Carter sat back in his chair. For a moment, the calm diplomat disappeared and something much more dangerous showed in his eyes. So they never intended to give us a fair chance. This was always about conquest. The question is what we do about it, Lisa said. John looked at each of his teammates. We do what we came here to do. We protect humanity. Even if it means war? Ryan asked. Sometimes, John replied. The only way to prevent a war is to show your enemies that they cannot win one. Outside the window, alien ships moved through space like slow-moving stars. None of their crews suspected that 4 humans in business suits were planning to change the balance of power in the galaxy. The final council session was scheduled to begin in 2 hours. Thousands of alien delegates filled the great chamber, chattering and growling and making the various sounds their species used for conversation. The air buzzed with excitement and tension. Most of the aliens expected the humans to accept tributary status. It was the smart choice for a weak species. A few hoped the humans would refuse just to see what would happen to them. John Carter walked into the chamber wearing the same black suit he had worn for 3 days. Behind him came Lisa Mitchell, Ryan Brooks, and Sam Turner, all dressed in their simple diplomatic clothes. They looked calm and professional, like people going to an important business meeting. Gorth was already in his seat, his massive frame taking up space meant for 3 normal beings. His tusks gleamed in the chamber's lights, and his small eyes watched the humans with obvious hunger. Near him sat Admiral Zektar, an even larger Bruthen with scars covering his gray hide and metal implants replacing one arm. Thex 9 occupied the Corvin section, his skin shifting through colors like a slow rainbow. He had brought several aides who whispered to each other in their musical language. The mantis-like chairman called for order. The human delegation will now give their answer to the council's generous offer. John Carter stood up and walked to the center platform. The chamber grew quiet. Even the translator machines seemed to pause. Honored delegates, John began in his calm voice. We have given careful thought to the proposal for tributary status. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats. However, before we answer, we would like to make a counter-proposal. Gorth made a sound like grinding stone. Counter-proposal? You are in no position to make demands, human. John Carter turned to face the Bruthen delegation. We propose to settle this matter through traditional means. We invoke the right of trial by combat. The chamber erupted. Aliens made sounds of surprise, confusion, and in some cases what might have been laughter. The chairman had to call for order 3 times before the noise died down. Trial by combat? Thex9's skin turned a deep purple. You wish to send warriors from your homeworld to fight our champions? No, John said simply. We will fight ourselves. The laughter grew louder. Several delegates pointed at the 4 humans in their business suits and made sounds that clearly indicated they thought this was some kind of joke. Admiral Zektar stood up slowly. His metal arm gleamed as he moved. You 4 soft diplomats wish to face Bruthan warriors in combat? We do, Lisa Mitchell said, standing beside John. This is madness, Crixwell called out, his 4 arms moving in agitated patterns. These are scholars and negotiators, not fighters. Ryan Brooks adjusted his glasses and spoke in his quiet voice. We are what humanity has sent to represent us. If you question our worthiness, then let us prove it. Sam Turner stood up last, still looking like a nervous student. We request 4 separate combat trials. Each of us will face a champion of your choosing. The chamber buzzed with excitement now. This was unexpected entertainment. Most species had warrior traditions, and combat trials were an old and respected way to settle disputes. Gorth looked at Admiral Zektar, who was grinning with all his teeth showing. Very well, humans. You wish to die with honor instead of living, as slaves. I can respect that. The Admiral gestured to his section of the chamber. I choose 4 champions. First, Grak the Bone Crusher, undefeated in 50 battles. A Bruthan even larger than Gorth stood up. His arms were covered in ritual scars, and he carried weapons that looked like they could cut through steel. Second, Vex Prime of the Corvin Assassin Guild. A figure in black armor rose from the Corvin section. Its face was hidden behind a mask, and various devices and weapons were attached to its suit. Third, Thokdur, master of 16 weapon forms. This warrior was smaller than the others but moved with fluid grace. Multiple weapons hung from his belt, and his eyes showed the calm confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Fourth, Zilkon of the Nexus Worlds, undefeated in 200 duels. The final champion was humanoid but covered in scales that shifted color like armor. It moved without making any sound at all. John Carter nodded respectfully to each champion. We accept these opponents with honor. The trials will be broadcast live to the entire galaxy, the chairman announced. Each combat will be to surrender or incapacitation. The humans have chosen their fate. As the details were arranged, none of the aliens noticed the subtle changes in the 4 humans. Their posture shifted slightly. Their eyes became more alert. The way they moved suggested coiled energy, waiting to be released. Sam Turner looked around the chamber with new eyes, no longer seeing alien delegates but calculating distances, weapons, and escape routes. Ryan Brooks tilted his head slightly, his enhanced hearing picking up heartbeats and breathing patterns. Lisa Mitchell's hands hung loose at her sides, but her muscles were ready to move faster than thought. John Carter stood in the center of the platform and felt the familiar calm that came before action. He had felt this way in dozens of combat zones, facing enemies who thought they knew what they were dealing with. The first combat trial would begin in 1 hour. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. Admiral Zektar leaned over to Gorth and spoke in their own language. This will be over quickly. 4 soft diplomats against our best warriors. Yes, Gorth agreed. Almost too easy. But it will make a good example for other species who think they can challenge us. In the human section, John Carter opened his briefcase and removed what looked like diplomatic papers. Hidden underneath were 4 small devices that he passed to his teammates. To watching aliens, they looked like communication equipment. They were not communication equipment. Remember, John said quietly to his team, we represent all of humanity today. Show them who we really are. Lisa Mitchell smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. It was not a diplomatic smile. With pleasure, she said. The combat arena was being prepared. Soon the galaxy would discover that humanity's most dangerous warriors had been sitting in the council chamber all along, dressed like diplomats and carrying briefcases. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had judged the humans by their appearance instead of their actions. They were about to learn the difference. The combat arena filled with noise as thousands of aliens took their seats. The circular fighting space was 50 meters across with walls of clear energy to protect the spectators. Above, holographic cameras broadcasted the event to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Sam Turner entered the arena first. He still wore his suit, though he had removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. He looked very young and very nervous as he faced Vex Prime, the Corvan assassin. The alien's black armor gleamed with built-in weapons and targeting systems. "This is almost sad," Admiral Zektar commented to his staff. "The boy looks like he might cry." Vex Prime activated his weapon systems. Energy blades extended from his arms and small projectile launchers rose from his shoulders. He had killed 47 beings in single combat and never lost a fight. The fight began when the energy barrier dropped. Vex Prime moved like lightning, faster than most beings could. Follow. His energy blade swept toward Sam's neck, programmed to slice through bone and muscle in one clean cut. Sam Turner was not there anymore. The young human had moved aside at the last possible second, his hand coming up with something small and metallic. There was a bright flash and a crackling sound. Vex Prime's armor systems died instantly, his weapons powering down and his targeting computers going dark. "Electromagnetic pulse device," Sam explained calmly as the assassin stumbled. "I built it from parts in my briefcase." Vex Prime tried to attack with his bare hands, but Sam was already moving. The nervous student was gone, replaced by someone who moved with deadly precision. Sam's hand struck 3 pressure points on the assassin's neck in less than a second. Vex Prime collapsed alive but completely paralyzed. The arena fell silent. Ryan Brooks entered next, facing Thokdur, the master of 16 weapon forms. The alien warrior chose a curved blade that hummed with energy. Ryan took off his glasses and set them carefully aside. "I do not wish to kill you," Thokdur said respectfully. "Surrender now and I will make it quick. Thank you for the consideration," Ryan replied politely. "But I cannot surrender." Thokdur attacked with the skill of someone who had studied combat for centuries. His blade moved in patterns that few beings could counter, striking from angles that should have been impossible to defend. Ryan Brooks caught the blade with his bare hand. The alien warrior stared in shock as the human's grip tightened on the energy weapon. Ryan's other hand moved in a blur, striking pressure points that Thokdur did not even know existed. The alien master found himself unable to move. His own weapon turned against him and pressed gently against his throat. 17 martial arts, Ryan said quietly. "Not 16. Yield." Thokdur yielded. Lisa Mitchell entered the arena to face Grak the Bone Crusher. The massive Bruthan carried weapons that weighed more than the human woman. He stood nearly 10 feet tall and had arms like tree trunks. "I will try to leave pieces big enough to bury," Grak rumbled. Lisa smiled and removed her suit jacket, revealing a white blouse that looked like it belonged in an office. "That is very thoughtful of you," Grak charged like an avalanche, swinging, a warhammer that could crush a vehicle. Lisa stepped aside so smoothly she might have been dancing. The hammer smashed into the arena floor, leaving a crater where she had been standing. The Bruthan warrior spun and attacked again, and again Lisa was not where his weapon landed. She moved around him like water, always just out of reach, always one step ahead of his attacks. Then she struck back. Lisa's hands moved faster than the cameras could follow. She hit Grak in 17 different places in the space of 3 heartbeats. Each strike was precisely calculated, targeting nerve clusters and pressure points with surgical accuracy. The massive warrior toppled like a falling building and did not get up. Finally, John Carter entered the arena. He faced Admiral Zektar, himself who had decided to take the place of his 4th champion. The Bruthan admiral was covered in scars and carried weapons that had ended dozens of lives. "I will enjoy this, human," the admiral growled. You have made fools of my warriors, now you face me. John Carter loosened his tie and unbuttoned his sleeves. For the first time since arriving at the station, his calm expression changed. His eyes grew cold and hard, showing a glimpse of the man beneath the diplomat's mask. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I have killed 43 beings in combat. Each one thought they were stronger than me." Admiral Zektar laughed and activated his weapons. Energy claws extended from his metal arm and his natural claws gleamed with poison. "Then you will be 44. The fight lasted exactly 90 seconds. John Carter moved like a force of nature, combining techniques from a dozen different combat systems. He had learned to fight in jungles and deserts, in space stations and underwater bases. Every move was calculated, every strike had a purpose. Admiral Zektar was skilled and experienced, but he had never faced anything like this quiet human in a business suit. John's attacks came from impossible angles, targeting weaknesses the Admiral did not know he had. When it ended, Admiral Zektar lay unconscious on the arena floor. John Carter stood over him, barely breathing hard, his tie still straight and his hair still neat. The arena was completely silent. Thousands of alien beings stared at the 4 humans who had just defeated their greatest warriors. John Carter walked to the center of the arena and spoke into the broadcasting system. "The Galactic Council now understands that humanity comes to you not as supplicants but as equals. We dress like diplomats because we prefer peace to war. We speak softly because we do not need to make threats. We carry briefcases instead of weapons because we are confident in our abilities." He looked up at the alien delegates in their seats. "We are humanity's warriors and we choose to be diplomats. But never mistake diplomacy for weakness." Crixvel was the first to speak, his forearms trembling. What are you?" "We are what our species becomes when we must protect those we love," John replied. "Today we protected billions of human lives. Tomorrow we hope to work with you, to protect billions more." Thex9's skin had turned completely white. "The tributary status is no longer being offered," John said firmly. "Humanity requests full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and protections thereof." The mantis-like chairman looked around the stunned chamber. "All in favor?" Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the chamber rose in approval. That night, as the 4 humans prepared to return to Earth, they received word that the Bruthan and Corvin fleets had turned away from human space. Other species were sending messages of friendship and offers of alliance. John Carter stood at his window looking out at the stars. Lisa Mitchell joined him, still wearing her diplomat suit, think. "They learned their lesson?" she asked. "For now," John replied. "But there will always be others who mistake kindness for weakness. Then we will be ready for them," Lisa said. John Carter smiled, the expression of a man who had done his job well. "Yes, we will be ready." Outside, the galaxy continued its ancient dance among the stars. But now it danced to a slightly different rhythm, one that included the quiet confidence of humanity's most dangerous warriors, who preferred to dress like diplomats.